Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about some news that occurred earlier in the month and see what we can infer from it in relation to a Biden administration policy and kind of go through it and see where it leaves us. Because about 2 months ago, the Biden administration announced the formalization of a series of policy changes that it had made basically its first year in office. And they made it formal, and the general tone of it is that, well, the White House is making this decision now. And it related to the use of U.S. special operations or drone forces. And the end result here was that those decisions now get made at the White House. And the goal was to limit civilian loss. If you go back and watch that video, I am openly skeptical of whether or not this is going to work. Mainly because drones are very tempting. We have had a lot of policies over the years. None of them have been good. The policy that the Biden administration laid out looks good on paper, but it has to be adhered to work. So, what happened? In Syria, there was a raid, special operations helicopter-borne raid. And there have been other raids since this policy went into effect. However, this is the first one that, based on all the information I have, really this is an ideal use of a drone. That this would be the moment to use one. So what we can infer from that is that the White House is actually taking this seriously and is perhaps even being more cautious than they really have to be to limit civilian loss. Their goal was almost zero, is actually what they said their goal was. And it looks like they're trying to stick to that. So we can infer, based on the operations that have occurred since this policy went into effect, that at least for the time being, the Biden administration is actually serious about this. This raid, from my understanding, they went in, provided an opportunity to surrender. Those inside chose a different route, and that went about as well as you could expect. But there were no civilian loss, and everything went according to plan. We can also kind of infer from this that the U.S. military is possibly starting to move back to a higher focus on K or C stuff, operations where the ideal would be to capture the person, but there are other options on the table, and focus on rebuilding intelligence gathering capabilities there. That's the other thing that we can infer from this. So, it is still very early in this policy, but it's a hopeful sign, and we don't get hopeful signs when it comes to the U.S. use of drones. That doesn't happen very often. It looks, again, early on, it looks, though, that the United States has finally developed a drone policy that makes sense. It took 20 years, but we're here. So the Biden administration's policy does appear to be holding up and accomplishing its goals. It is more difficult to do it this way. It is safer. It all depends on the political will and the political will of the Biden administration and how well they can hold up when expediency becomes necessary. If they can really focus on keeping the special operations community up to speed and in the locations they need to be in to do it in person. So, anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.